G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. We'll have all the show notes and any resources mentioned in the cast on our website. Her ex-husband and best friend started a legal firm in Hobart in 2001. After he became too unwell due to MS, Kate stepped in to run the conveyancing business, now the largest in Tasmania. Taking the helm in 2009, sales grew from $350,000 to now $2 million a year, with a team from herself and one other to now 12 FTE across 19 people. Nurtured a very flexible and family-friendly work environment as she found early on in her career it hard to find a workplace that is family first, fun and flexible. Her daughters and 2 families of 3 are in the team. Big believer in outsourcing to experts, from marketing, bookkeeping, business consulting to HR. Staff are key to conveyancing. Employ on personality, find team members who can relate to people. Felt she had succeeded when, a few years ago, sipping champagne on the ferry to Mona for a team Christmas event and thinking, I've really done something now. She believes the hardest thing in growing a small business is managing growth, getting those numbers right. Advice Kate would give herself on day one is learn how to say no more. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Kate Goodman from Goodman Conveyancing. Thanks for your time today, Kate.
My pleasure, Troy.
Let's start with how we know each other. This will be a quick one because we were introduced virtually. We haven't met yet, but through Rob at SBA Collins here in Hobart, and you're based here in Hobart as well.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, great.
I go to Rob as a business consultant. So.
Yep. Great. Yeah, he's a nice bloke and knows his stuff.
Yep, he really does.
So maybe tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does, how it makes money.
Yep. So we're a bunch of licensed conveyancers, and we're situated right in the middle of the city, up on the corner of Murray and Collins, and we've got a beautiful view of the Durham River and Mount Wellington, so prime spot. And so we do predominantly residential conveyancing, so the transfer of property under a contract of sale. So working for both the purchasers and vendors, and that's how we make our money.
Great. And so, yeah, that's all the legal paperwork that needs to be processed whenever land or property's transferred from one owner to another. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, dealing with their banks, once they're setting up their loans, dealing with the land registration.
Yeah, and settlement obviously is the big one, getting all that right so it goes through on the right day.
That's certainly the aim.
You must be very organised then.
I'm the disorganised probably in the business, but my staff are very organised.
Yeah.
So they don't let me do too much of the day-to-day running of a file. They let me do the troubleshooting.
Great, good. And tell us how the business started out.
Yeah, so originally it was a legal practice. So Matthew Goodman started up Goodman barristers and solicitors in around the year 2000. Matthew was my ex-husband at the time, but also still one of my best friends. So I started working for him in 2001, just part-time to begin with. I was at uni just starting a degree to do some psychology. And then he offered me full-time, and Troy, I didn't know whether I had the academic wits to get, the psychology degree. So I took the option of a full-time job, and and then I think around 2007 he got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and it was quite an aggressive form.
Yeah.
And around the same time, Tasmania was introducing licensed conveyancers. Under a grandfathering program, you could just go and sit an exam, 2-hour exam basically, and if you'd had the relevant experience, you could be one of the first ones to get your licence.
Mm-hmm.
So he pushed me out the door to do that. So no, that's 2006 I get my licence. And then I sat on that, and in 2009 he was too unwell to continue the business. So on the 1st of October 2009, I moved from one desk to the other desk, and all of a sudden...
You're the boss.
I was the boss, yeah, just like that.
And how did you feel about that transition, that change?
Scared shitless.
Yeah.
This is what I'm allowed to swear.
Yeah,
no,
don't worry, I swear a lot, yeah.
Absolutely, it was frightening, just changing sex. The good thing was we changed it obviously to Goodman Conveyancing, but Matthew was at home, so I had that go-to person for the dumb questions, you know, and you never feel dumb asking him those questions, and that is gold, you know, at
absolutely.
that stage.
Yeah, great. Well, do you have any key numbers you can share with us to illustrate the growth over those 20 years, I guess?
Yeah. So when I take over in 2009, we're probably bringing in about 350, 400,000 per annum in just the turnover.
Yep.
And I'd say now we're close up around the 2 million, or maybe a bit higher in 2018. Dropped a bit 2019, so around that mark.
Great, that's phenomenal growth. I'm surprised there's that many transactions going on. Your firm must be one of the bigger ones in Tasmania?
Yeah, I would say we're probably, as far as conveyances, definitely the biggest.
Yep.
Obviously, there's all the legal firms as well, but they wouldn't have a conveyancing department as big as what we've got here.
Yep. And in 2009, when you took over, so how many full-time equivalents did you have then, and what's kind of the number now, I guess, pre-COVID?
Yeah, so we've only got 2, me and one other, when Matt walked out the door, and we were actually only 4 days each.
Yep.
And now we've got a staff of 19, but I roughly calculated it's probably around 12 FTEs.
Yeah, so you're very supportive of a lot of flexible working, from the sounds of it?
Absolutely. Like when Matt walked out the door, Jen and I, we were both mums, and it's so hard to find a workplace that's willing to allow you to put your family first.
Yep.
So we sort of said, okay, we were really going to run with a family first policy, and it had to be fun and flexible. And and we've maintained that with all the staff.
Yeah, great. No, that's a good culture to have and to build. Yeah.
Yeah, very important.
And when was the moment you felt like you'd succeeded? This one's a tough question.
Yeah, it is a very tough question, of course, because success is so subjective. And I thought about it, and I feel that it was when I started to have people call me up and say, look, I've had 3 people tell me to contact you.
Yep.
I've had people say that I can trust you.
Yep.
You know, this person told me, that person. And I felt that was very reflective of where I wanted to be. I wanted to have a really good word of mouth that I could be relied upon. So I think that's the point for me. But I do also recall we were heading out for our Christmas dinner a couple of years ago, and we're on the ferry heading to Mona, all the staff and their partners, sipping the champagne. And I remember having that very, sort of view, wow, I've really done something now,
Yep.
So, a few different takes on success there.
Yeah, that's great. I think a lot of us business owners and entrepreneurs, I guess, don't take that time often to reflect on big wins or milestones in their businesses. They just keep, chasing the next big thing they've got to accomplish. So it's good to take that time to reflect.
I have a saying, I came out of the fitness industry before this. And so when people say to me, I'm getting there, I always say, well, make sure you know when you're there, because so many people are always getting there and they've missed the there. Some way back in the rear vision mirror, the there was actually in front of them.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And I guess on that, what does success look like to you? There's another way that you think about it?
Yeah, I think respect within the profession. For me, conveyancers were very frowned upon by solicitors. We were treading on their toes and taking some of their bread and butter income. But when I got to the point where, I was even getting clients ring up and say, look, I was referred to by this solicitor or something, I felt that respect within the industry was success for me on a professional level.
Yep, great. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Well, as I say, we shied away from marketing for a long time because it was growing a little bit too quickly. But when we did get into the marketing, I engaged somebody who knew what they were doing. So I outsource, and I recommend outsourcing marketing. Yeah,
it is a specialised skill. So finding an expert, I totally agree with that.
Absolutely. Although in Tassie, the best marketing you ever get is word of mouth.
Yep.
So my repeat clients and those clients that are willing enough to fanatically refer me to their family and friends and work colleagues, that's fantastic. So,
That's gold. Yeah. Great.
Absolutely.
And what about funding the business growth? Did you have any overdrafts or get government grants or anything? It's all been from cash flow?
It has all been from cash flow. Again, I was lucky because the cash flow was there in the business. We certainly had some years where we were paying off a few tax debts left over from my predecessor, because he wasn't as strict with running the books as I am. But no, I have been lucky that I've never had to tip in anything of my own.
Yeah, great. Best way to be. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry? It sounds like you probably would.
Oh, I don't know, Troy. It's a tough gig. It's a really tough gig. I often say if I was successful in selling real estate as what I am in conveyancing, I would be out on a yacht somewhere, travelling the world. Not that that's what I dream of doing, but for the money we earn, it's a tough gig. So I don't know. I don't know what I'd do.
Yep, right. Can you outline the most stressful point in the business growth journey so far?
Certainly the first 12 months were the most stressful, and I'd say getting up and getting into my clothes and getting to work every day was a stress point for me. I certainly lived in fear for the first 12 months or so. And then that fear was taken over because the GFC hit with coming into sort of the second year.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you go from, I don't know if I know all that I need to know, to all of a sudden going, gee, I don't know if I'm even going to be asked any questions that I don't know the answer to, because the phone stopped ringing,
Wow. So you took quite a hit there for a year or two?
We did. The global financial crisis hit Tassie, I think, a little bit later than the other states, and it did slow down there. And I distinctly remember sitting there. I'd put on one other staff by then, and we had to cut down our hours. And I remember sitting there one day and the phone did not ring almost all day, and that's just unheard of back then. It was just like, wow, this is going to hit hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And what area in business do you feel you had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Definitely staff. Conveyancing is all about people. We're dealing with people all the time. So you've got to make sure that you've got the right staff to deal with those people. Yeah. So staff has been my main focus, and culture the whole time. And then the customer service delivery flows on from that.
Yep. And what have you enjoyed least about managing the fast growth?
Yeah, it's managing those numbers and those staffing levels. It's, the Goldilocks effect. It's either not enough or it's too much. And where do I find the magic sweet spot of I want 44 contracts a week, and then I'm absolutely in that sweet spot. And we would go around between, the low 30s, mid 30s, then we jump up sometimes to the high 50s, and you're like, oh no. So that's been a constant the whole time. Since we came out of the GFC. That's been the constant, trying to keep the staffing levels right.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to slow down either. I think Tasmania is going to remain a big focus for property buyers down here, and mainlanders, and moving down as well. Yeah,
look, we've still had mainlanders ringing up and buying sight unseen during COVID. Because they still want to get a little piece of our paradise.
And what has been the biggest mindset shift for you?
Yeah, again, it was back in the early days, and my fearful days. And my big fear was, look, maybe I won't know the answer. I'm going to get asked something and I won't know the answer. And I really had one of those light bulb moments of going, hang on, I can't be expected to know everything. Who would think that I would know everything? But I realised I was smart enough to find out the answers, And so that was a big aha moment, and being able to, and getting comfortable with saying to clients, look, I've actually never been asked that before. I've never have done one of those before, but leave it with me and I'll come back to you. And wow, I have learned so much from that response. So that was the biggest mind shift, I think, for me.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And what's the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
I think it's going to depend on the business owner and what their strengths and weaknesses are. but it's more a virtue. But I think bravery. I think there's not a small business owner out there that isn't brave and doesn't need to be brave.
Yep.
Especially when you're managing staff up to, the 12, 15 or more. It's a lot of responsibility. So, yeah,
It is.
bravery.
Yep, great. Do you love talking small business growth with other owners? We have a vibrant online community from many industries around the world. Plus, we regularly add new tools and resources for community members and host 2 webinars a month to help you grow your small business. growsmallbusiness.com. And can maybe talk a bit about how you added people to the team, because obviously they're crucial to the service-based business really that you have. Can you share any wins or mistakes or advice to those listening when adding people?
Well, we've done a little bit differently. Like always, I employ on personality, not on their CV. Conveyancing is a process, and I can teach anybody how to run a conveyancing file, but I can't teach everybody how to relate to a customer. And so very much I look for more around the emotional intelligence and social intelligence. But I've also employed a lot from family. So we've got a family of 3 out there now, 2 families of 3, a family of 2, and that's worked well for me. It's worked well for the culture as well to have families in there.
As in, so that family of 3, there's 3 of those family members working in the business?
Correct. And their mum was my first employee that changed with me. So Jen's son and daughter, and now when we started off, these kids were sitting in our office after they finished school because they lived up at Lachlan. Yep. And so they would hang around in the office. Yes, I've got both the son and daughter and the daughter's husband.
Yep.
In here, yeah. My second in charge, if you would call him that, his son who's at uni, he's in here. He does our settlement agency, and both my daughters are in here because they're my exit strategy.
Yeah, you throw them the keys and go and sail around the world or go on a big holiday.
Yeah. But it works really well. It's also given, we've had a couple of staff members that have moved through that were family, but it gave them the experience of working in a corporate situation. And as you know, once you've had a job, it's easier to get a job. And for a young sort of late teen, having to really grow up in that corporate environment helps once they do decide what they want to do and go out.
Yeah, absolutely. What about any mishires, any additions you didn't get right, you had to move people on?
No, I haven't. I've had a couple of funny things. The one bit of recruiting I did, and Rob Cameron was responsible for this, Troy.
Yep. This is going to be good.
At the recruitment agency, and we were also in a networking group together. So I engaged them to find me a staff member, and by the time we actually got down to picking them, I needed 2. That's how quickly it was growing. So I took the top 2. And then I remember within a week, one of them came in and advised me that she was just going into some IVF, family planning. And of course that was great, but I was a bit like, okay, so I'm going to lose you really soon.
Yeah.
To a pregnancy, and then the other one, and look, they both still work for me, and they're both great. But the other one came in after I gave her the job, and she says, so I just want you to know that I've got a few tattoos. And so she had tattoos all up her arm. She said, but I'm really happy to wear my jacket. And again, she's been a great employee, but it's just those moments where you really get stretched to change your mind shift about inclusive, staff and everybody's individualness. So, But I do stir Rob up about it.
Good. And what are some things you recommend to building sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth? Because it sounds like you've got a great team there and a really sensible, friendly, and commercial culture. But
Yeah, well, what we did from very early on when we were at about a number of 6 people, 5 or 6, we started a weekly, we got new premises downstairs, and it's the first time we'd had a lunchroom. So I started a weekly Friday morning staff meeting, but we began every staff meeting with family news. So we'd go around, what's going on in your world today, what's happening, things like that. And so it was really good because then we go through all this growth, and every staff member that started, they'd sit down in that staff meeting and they'd hear all about us, and they'd tell us about themselves. And it just really made everybody not just a work colleague. You actually knew what was going on. And of course, sometimes you'd have a staff member say, oh no, look, I want to pass now, because they might have been having something really hard going on, and we were aware of it, but they just didn't want to talk about it. So, and that's been a fantastic way. And also in that staff meeting, everybody's opinion is valued. So right down to, the 19-year-old who's, doing the settlements, if they've got a suggestion to what we're discussing, they're valued. So that's been great. And they come up with the best suggestions. The young, way better than us oldies.
I like that that family question when I've got direct reports, I have a weekly one-on-one with them for 30 minutes, which I picked up from the Manager Tools guys, Mark and Mike, and it's just, first 10 minutes for them to talk, 10 minutes for me to talk, and then we spend 10 minutes on their professional development, what areas they need to, we may have agreed for them to do an online course or read a book or something. At the start of each one-on-one, I ask an open question, which is, how are you going? Because that will often tease out issues, shit's going on at home or in their life, that everyone's busy. So, a quick passing chat, you're probably not going to pick up on those things. And it's important as their line manager to understand what they're going through. So if you need to provide them more support, they need some time off or bring their holidays forward, or even just cut them some slack if they're dropping a few things, to really understand that. And I find that, and that feeds into the culture of the business as well, because people feel valued, heard and respected.
Yeah. One of the first things I tell all staff, the ones that, as a joint, is I do not expect you to put my business above the other aspects of your life. Like your life out there is important. And if you need any flexibility, or if you've got any interests that require some time and you need flexibility, let me know. Because, it's a mistake to expect people to come in here and make your business, their everything, even for that time, because their lives are still going on outside while they're in here. So that's been a really key point for us.
Yeah, I've seen several business owners really push their team very hard to get, a lot out of them. The legal industry, as you probably know, are pretty renowned, particularly the bigger firms, to expect their solicitors and lawyers to be working 60 to 80 hours a week, to be on to be able to be called at any hour of the day. It's just unrealistic. I think it's not sustainable. And I think having that balance, and it sounds like you're showing great leadership yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. But that's not where we're not on this planet to do conveyancing, for
that's 60
hours a week.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And how much professional development did you invest in yourself over the years? Like books, podcasts, courses, training, conferences?
Yeah, so I do all the sort of state conferences here, and I've been to interstate state conferences as well. But the best professional development I got was when I put my hand up to be the president of the Tasmanian AIC, so that's the Australian Institute of Conveyancers, so the TAS division. So being state president sounds very grand. Let me just shoot that down for you straight away. There was a whole 7 members at that time. So it wasn't that grand. But what it did do, it put me on the National Council table. So I'd have to go over twice a year to the National Council. Now that was excellent. That's, sitting in amongst it with the leaders in the industry, the leaders in the whole profession, even the banking, PEXA, which is the electronic conveyancing, was just in its infant stages and being discussed heavily at every meeting. I was sitting there with the land registrars from each state. So that was one of the biggest things for my professional development, and joining BNI. I hate to say the word BNI because I know there's varying people's views on it.
That's Breakfast Networking International, isn't it? They have breakfast networking meetings. Yeah, I used to go to those in London when I was there 14 years ago.
That got me to learn so much about other professions. And, because they have these 10 minutes, we had to sell your business and explain it. So I was hearing about financial services. I was hearing about insurance brokering. I was hearing mortgage brokering. I was hearing so much more that really, and it got a lot of professionals, that I could refer to, again, insurance brokers, or ask the questions to, I could go and ask these questions that I needed answered. So that really helped me. So that's been the best two professional. But in the early days, I'd say, and I still believe it, that I've put more into personal development. And I actually think that personal development is more important than professional development.
Yep.
Because I think, as I've said before, emotional intelligence and social intelligence are the most important aspects of conveyancing. And so I really put a lot of work into those sort of things.
Yeah. And on that, I guess, is that what kind of learning? How do you do that learning? Is it just for books or courses?
Reading, reading mostly. Yeah, don't listen to a lot of podcasts, except yours now, Troy, of course.
Thank you. And what about mentors or coaches? Sounds like Rob's a bit of a coach or an advisor.
Rob's an advisor, that I've engaged. I've tried a few before him, but didn't land it. They didn't land it. I didn't land it. I don't know, but I just wasn't feeling the love. And so, but Rob, really have stuck with him for a few years now and really enjoy that relationship and get a lot from it. He keeps me on my toes as looking at the business rather than getting bogged down in the technical side, which I do once I'm in here.
That's very common, and it's good to have someone external that's not there. You might see them once a month and they'd point something out and that you hadn't thought of because you're so busy doing the day-to-day. Yeah,
that's right. And it gets me to keep thinking about the future as well, not just today, and the longevity of the business. And there's so many aspects he keeps in front of me. But I didn't pay any mentors, but I must mention that Helen Kent of Lowry Kent. So Helen was one of our first conveyancers. She went through on the first lot for Tasmania, and she had her office just down the road from me. And she really gave me a lot of her time and her expertise. So I've always been extremely grateful for that.
Yeah, that's great, particularly because she's a competitor. That's very, giving.
Absolutely. And even now, she will quite often refer clients to me if she's got a conflict of interest or anything like that. And that, again, is the respect that I feel that, I've been a success. Yeah.
Yep. And do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No, just as I say, Rob Cameron, and both my daughters are in here with me now, although they're still quite busy having babies and things like that. So they come along to a lot of those meetings with Rob so that we can just be looking at the future together rather than just me. Yep,
great. All right, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Managing that growth, as I said, just trying to get those numbers right and the staff right.
Yep. And favourite business book, which has helped you the most?
As I say, I don't read a lot of business, and I read one, and it's not really a business book, but it was by Robin Sharma, who's more into sort of the personal development there, and the leader who had no title, or the leader with no title or something. And it was really interesting sort of slant on saying, look, we can all be leaders. You don't need anything special.
Yep. Yeah, it can be learned. Doesn't have to be innate. Yeah. What about any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for professional development?
No.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
A great bookkeeper.
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't manage the books in any way, and right from the get-go, I had that top bookkeeper. Yeah.
It's good that you identified that may be a weakness or even just not an area of interest, and you've been able to delegate that to someone, and sounds like an A player too.
Yeah, I outsource as much as I can. Marketing, business consultant, bookkeeping, HR, outsource it. I'm conveyancer.
Yep, great. And final question, what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
I think I would say learn how to say no more. whilst saying yes has really broadened my knowledge and has been a great tool to learn a lot, I think sometimes it comes at a cost of a lot of time of mine, which you don't get paid, well enough for. So I think if I had learnt to say no a bit more easily, it would be great.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Early on in my business career of 20 years ago, I certainly said yes to far too many things and was always busy and late and tired, and not very focused.
That's right. And you can say no still respectfully and people will accept it. So, that would be my big learning.
Yep. Well, thanks for your time today, Kate. I think the audience will get a lot of value from what you've shared with us today, and your growth journey is wonderful, spectacular, and big congratulations to yourself and the wider team. So well done.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Troy. You have a good day.
You too.
Okay, bye.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.